Hello and welcome to the Doomsy McDoomscroller Show, a philosophical science fiction podcast featuring refreshingly heretical commentary on current news and futurology. Well, we might say, Doomsy, what's up? What do you mean by futurology? Well, yeah, because I rant and complain about the news from far away, like really far away. You know, if you were getting the video feed along with the audio part of this broadcast, you would see that. I'm currently in a spaceship. There's a couple of huge planets right in front of me, some kind of weird energy flux anomaly. Maybe, I don't know what it is. It's not really registering on my instruments all that well. But, I'm far away. It could take me a couple decades to get back to Earth, or even just the Milky Way galaxy. In fact, I've been away from Earth for so long now that I no longer consider myself part of your culture. And by your culture, I'm talking about the catastrophic stampede of 8 billion of you, all y'alls. So I'm out of Shawshank, yet lost somewhere in the multiverse. I want to be back on Earth. I don't want to wear a spacesuit everywhere I go for the rest of my existence. I'd like to be back on Earth, but never again do I want to be civilized. I'll always be human, but no way do I want to be a farmer pyramid builder again. And if it takes me a couple decades to reach Earth, to what will I return? By the time you farmer pyramid builders have your way with it, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, looking at the same future. So I'm complaining from anywhere in space-time that I find myself. I am your fictional host, Doomsy McDoomscroller, and sometimes the show's writers have me referring to myself in the third person and breaking the fourth wall. This is not a normal show. And if you want your voice on the show, you can leave Doomsy a voice message, or you could leave the show's producers a voice message, and I, Doomsy, will play it. Well, if the writers put it into the show, if it's interesting enough. You can leave Doomsy a voice message by going to the show's website, www.doomsymcdoomscroller.com. Now, Doomsy is, you want a bit of backstory, you can get that on the website, but I'll tell you right now, Doomsy's a Gen Y guy. Yeah, I'm Gen Y. And I put a lot of blame on Gen X. And I put all the blame on Generation Not. Generation Not. The initial generation of civilized culture from about 12,000 years ago. The warmongers that are the basis of the characters in your culture's most famous literature. Adam and Cain. That mythology, your own mythology. Now, regarding futurology, look, Doomsy is no soothsayer. All right, I'm basically an average idiot much of the time. And talking about the elephant in the room doesn't amount to predicting the future. All right, I'm not that guy. What was it in the? What was it? Was it HBO? Somebody did a Isaac Asimov Foundation. They're starting to make movies or a series of episodes based on that book. And that guy used just a whole lot of math to predict what was going on in the future. Well, that's not what's going on here. You don't have to be a mathematician to see the elephant in the room. All right? It doesn't amount to predicting the future. Maybe you Egyptian crocodiles don't like my fact-based take on the trends. Well, maybe that's too bad. Maybe it's not. Maybe you find the show entertaining. You're welcome to listen. I'll tell you though, Doomsy's show is just as much about what isn't necessarily doomed as it is about what is certainly doomed. What is most certainly doomed is your culture. And by yours, I'm talking about the 8 billion of you. Civilization with a capital C. That culture. Okay, it's never been sustainable. Never has. And it's never going to be. Your culture is done for. That doesn't mean humans got to be done. Humans aren't necessarily doomed. And so that's what I'm talking about a lot of the time. It's not 100% doom and gloom. In fact, where's the doom in civilized culture ending? Because it basically sucks for most people. So not a whole lot of doom there. You got to realize culture is not what people have. Culture is what people do. And what 8 billion of you are doing is waging war versus Earth. So stopping that, you civilized culture being doomed, it's going to end. It's unsustainable. So it ending by way of it being abandoned or by way of it just stampeding over the cliff. It's not, it's hard to say that that's a bad thing, a war ending. I guess, how it ends is, does it go all the way until like the whole mutual kind of destruction thing? But this show isn't doom and gloom. This is the Doomsy McDoomscroller Show. Okay, altogether different. And so, got to do some doom scrolling so you don't have to. So we'll look at the news. And, well, without even bringing up the browser in my visor, without even doing that, I might as well just have something to read, right? Because I'm doom scrolling and you're listening, and so let's make it a real topic. It's in the news, and I won't click on any one of these in particular. Let's just look at the subject here. Classified documents. Classified documents is found at a home. And you're going to hear now what Doomsy thinks about this. It's a different take than what you're hearing. It's a different take. Additional documents found at Biden's Wilmington home. New York Times. Rolling Stone. Biden just played right into Trump's MSNBC. More documents found at Biden's Wilmington home, new statements say. Fox News. 5 more classified documents found at Biden's dome. Okay, so let's talk about classified documents, shall we? Classified documents. Secret. They're secret, right? They're secret from like billions of people. Especially secret from people in other countries. No matter how high ranking they are. And these documents they're what, extra secret everywhere. Okay, now I think it's weird that you all, I'm talking about all 8 billion of you, I'm not including Doomsy. I'm no longer putting myself in your category of culture. I'm not. I think it's weird that you got these classified documents, but these top secret plans and data and information and on people, and it's all about killing and death, and people are gonna die, and you got spies, and you got weapons, and that's it's got to be secret to almost everybody except the highest ranking, and then highest ranking, of course, not in other countries, and so you got all these secrets. Well, all right, now let's kind of go. I guess this is going to be kind of like pseudo conspiracy. Doomsy's take on this classified document thing. Okay. Pseudo conspiracy, because it's not a conspiracy. Like pseudoscience is not science. It's not a conspiracy, but I'm going to give it that kind of approach. Okay, I'm going to give it that kind of approach. This is I'm going to let you in. I'm going to let you in on the super big secret agreement. The super big secret agreement. Okay, it's super big. It's a secret agreement. And what I mean by that is like, this is something that, I don't know, classified, I would say, but it's an agreement. So, in the news, these classified documents, because, we, got to keep things separate, between governments. All right, this super big secret agreement I'm talking about, okay, it's an agreement between the Kremlin, Beijing, Brussels, Tokyo, Washington, D.C., I don't know, Mexico City? Is that the capital of Mexico? Now, name another capital or a city name for that represents government. Okay, you name it. Okay, this is an agreement between all of them. Okay, it's an agreement that is never broken. It's not a document. It's not like a treaty, not like NATO or anything. Because we're all talking about Beijing and the Kremlin and Washington D.C. and Brussels and what, South American governments, other North American governments. Let's go to every continent, right? Every civilized nation, right? A big agreement, a really big agreement. Now, I'm saying super big secret agreement. It won't seem so secret, but I mean, it's always there. And they all agree. They all agree on this. And it's a really, really strong agreement. They're never going to waver. They all agree on the same thing. Washington, D.C., the Kremlin, Beijing, Brussels, all the capitals in Europe. I'm saying Brussels. Do I even have that right? Is that like capital of the EU? I don't know. I don't got the best geography. Not even the Milky Way. What good is knowing which city is which on Earth? Expect me to figure that out? Well, I don't know. Somehow I do have Wi-Fi. Back to Earth. I do have Wi-Fi. So there's that. This super big secret agreement. Okay, here's what it is. And I bring this up because we're talking about classified documents and how only a few people should have them and they should be in these special places. Well, because they have secrets, the top secrets that shouldn't be shared. Well, let's talk about a super big secret agreement between all governments, between all countries, shared between all of these people at the tops of the biggest pyramids in the world. Something they share, they agree upon. Okay, and here's what that is. Here is the super big secret agreement. They're different. Yeah, that's what they agree on. And by they're different, what I mean by that is they agree that they are significantly different from each other. They all agree on that. Beijing, Kremlin, Washington, D.C., sorry, Doomsy was an American. Or still an American. I believe I still have my passport, although I don't know what it's going to do me in this universe. But yeah, that's the super big secret agreement. Is they're different. They all agree. And they want everyone, of course. In fact, they just take it for granted that everyone else agrees that they're different, that there's something different, that there's significant, not just something, there's this significant difference between this government and that government, between this regime and that parliament, between this government and that government, between this economy and that economy. That, significant difference. Right? That's why they do things the way they do them, and this other country does things the way they do those. Yeah. That's the super big secret. Super big secret agreement. And, there's at least a million of you. I know it's not a big percentage out of 8 billion. But there's at least a million that know there's no significant difference between civilized nations. It's all just a big honking pyramid scheme of pyramid schemes. It's a pyramid scheme of pyramid schemes. You could fill those pyramids. You use different stones and drag and build them and have a different steepness. to the pyramids, I guess. And, I mean, but it's all just a huge, big pyramid scheme. All y'all's. So that's Doomsy's commentary on this, classified documents found at some bigwig's home. Well, whoop-de-doo. Whoop-de-doo. You think classified documents, you think that's going to matter 25, 30 years if civilized culture keeps going? Or another 20 years? It's not going to go for another 30 years, 35 years. God, maybe you could push it to 40. Come on. 90% of the marine life will be gone with a 4-degree rise in temperature. 4 degrees. 90% of marine life gone. Like, classified documents ain't going to matter at that point. I guarantee you. And that's not predicting the future. I mean, that's just acknowledging the elephant in the room. If most of the forests are gone, if they're made to be gone, most forests, and they will be at this rate, at the rate that you're going, at the rate civilized culture is going, by 2050 or so, some year around then, most forests will be gone. That's the collapse of every economy in civilized culture. It doesn't matter if it's capitalism, communism, socialism. Doesn't matter what kind of ism you got going. All those social hierarchies are going to come crashing down. You keep pushing it to the collapse. Look. Your culture is doomed. Our species, not necessarily. It doesn't have to go down. You don't have to go down with the sinking ship. You don't. Okay. All right, let's dig into the news. And, of course, we're going to be talking about how race does not exist. And I say that right up front. Every time. There's no races among humans. There's just the human race, okay? I'm saying that right now because we're going to be looking at some racism in the news. Yeah, you betcha. Okay, but first, before we get there, and maybe this isn't actually before, but listen to this headline right here. Here, Doomsy's doing some scrolling now. Okay, and if you're getting the video feed of this, you can see, but I'll read it because this is a podcast. All right, so here we go. Weekend box office. This is on Forbes.com. Okay, Forbes Business. A weekend box office. Colon. I mean, you can't see that, so I'll read it. Okay? This is from, what day is this? Oh, January 8th. So, a bit ago. Weekend box office. Avatar sequel. Now 7th highest grossing film ever with 1.7 billion in worldwide earnings. 1.7 billion worldwide earnings. Okay, so yeah. We're going to talk about Avatar. Now you might think, well, you should know Doomsy has an interesting take on this. or not interesting, heretical, I guess. I don't know if you're listening, maybe you think it's interesting, but look, okay, this movie is racist as all get out. All right? I mean, it is ultra racist. You know, we get every kind of Wi-Fi signal out here. And so I showed it to a couple other pilots I met at, first time I watched it was at an outpost. And, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe the reaction. They thought all humans are just pieces of crap, just like the sky people. So, look, no spoilers. I'm not going to talk about the plot of the movie. Don't need to. I don't need to discuss the plot. I mean, there is no plot. It's a war movie, right? Just like a lot of movies. It's got all the classic sci-fi tropes. If you ask a kid from California back in the 70s, if you ask him what it's like, he'd probably say, like, Cowboys and Indians movie. Excuse me. So, no spoilers. You already know what the movie's about. But, look, how does this movie make like billions of dollars and no one's really talking about what this movie is about? Because even if you're wrong about it, it's still amazing that it's just not being talked about. For example, and what I mean is the sky people. The sky people. Who are there's the blue people, the different shades of blue, the Na'vi? Or is that just the name of the blue people that live in the forest? I know the planet's called Pandora, right? And of course, the people from Earth that are raping Pandora, those people are called sky people. And in this sci-fi movie, sky people are from Earth. They represent what? Humanity. Right? They represent humanity. Okay. Now, we know that that's the case for most people. You go into the theater thinking that's the deal. That's who sky people are. And that's why you leave going, good movie. Good movie. Really enjoyed it. Oh, you really enjoyed a movie about your race, your species, just running roughshod all over the galaxy, just wiping out, mass murdering a bunch of other people on another planet somewhere. That's enjoyable. And you just accept that. Well, what can you do? That's humans. We're doomed. We're doomed to act that way. Right? We're just too smart. We got free will. Oh no, we got free will. Here come the bipeds with their digital watches from Earth with their free will. So they can't help themselves, right? Nothing you can do. You're watching this movie. Look at this headline right here. from several months ago, a few more months and several months ago. I said, look at this, but listen to this. Dugong. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Dugong, : animal that inspired mermaid tales extinct in China. And they have this picture of what, I mean, shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but this marine creature looks remarkably docile, looks friendly even. It looks like it's smiling. It's going along underwater with a couple fish. And big headline, animal that inspired mermaid tales extinct in China. So bye-bye mermaids. Bye-bye these creatures. So it's happening. The sky people. Okay? And maybe that's not so inaccurate. The sky people, just don't think that represents humans. Sky people are not humans. Sky people are civilized people. You people. Not necessarily humanity. Don't let civilized culture represent humanity. That's just the probably the worst false equivalence that can be made. It's the most detrimental. You know, and one complaint I have about Avatar, you know, people said, wow, it's a really long movie. Really long, but it's never slow. Never really gets slow. Though it's long. And, you know, like, well, I don't think that makes it very good. I guess, I mean, we're looking for entertainment, right? The violence, explosions. It's not a scientific study. It's not somebody's anthropology thesis or their PhD. But you know, if it were, I mean, if we're really on this planet and we want to, you know, learn something, this paradise planet, why not look at how the Na'vi, how the blue people live? Because don't you empathize with them while you're in the cinema? They got life pretty nice, right? They're not building pyramids. So I think that movie was at least an hour too short. The movie should have been at least 4 hours. Let us know what, you know, at the risk of some slow moments. Because you'd be risking slow moments if you really showed the lifestyle of the Na'vi. Anthropologists know. Anthropologists know that hunter-gatherers, they live lifestyles, relative leisure. It's mostly kick back. It's mostly kicking back compared to sky people, compared to civilized culture, compared to pyramid builders, warmongers. And I don't have to say farmers now because I said warmongers. Farming is holy war agriculture. Yeah, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. That's what you do. That's what you're doing. So I think the movie should have been longer. at the risk of having some slow points, because there would have been some slow points. Because Na'vi, the hunter-gatherers, and this is true of humans on Earth, hunter-gatherers, they got it pretty kicked back. And you know that makes sense. You know, if you think about it, you know, a little deeper than surface level, that it makes sense. I mean, if you want to get analytical about it, hunter-gatherer, come on. Look, let's just take, let's look at one continent, one with which I have some familiarity. I'm a Gen Y guy. Grew up in North America, California side of the continent. And before farmers got there were people. There were people. I mean, modern humans. For dozens of thousands of years. For dozens of thousands of years, there were modern humans in North America. And what was the population? What was the count? We'll never know for sure. To a certain degree of accuracy, we won't. I mean, a couple dozen million. Now there's several hundred million from a couple few dozen million to what, 500 million? North America? I'm not sure. I know what USA's about 3.5 million people. So from a few dozen million to once farmers get there, once the farmers, pyramid builders, get to North America, just several centuries ago, now there's 500 million. Okay, so we know that the only way to increase a population is to increase food supply. You have to increase food production in order to make a population grow. There's no other way. People are made of food. If you don't have more food, you can't get more people. So we're talking, but it wasn't those few dozen million people that grew. Those people were wiped out. Mostly genocide, some slavery. But then the farmers that were there, the pyramid builders, they went to work. And oh yeah, they went to work. 500 million people later. You know, and that's what we're talking about, going to work. Going to work. Right? You have to increase food production to increase your population growth. Now, answer this. What is easier? Working extra to make surplus, or doing just what you need to do to have enough? Now, it might sound like this is a poll question and I'm trying to influence your answer, but you can trust Doomsy. I'm not. I really don't know any other way to phrase it. I mean, that's the situation we're talking about in this question, this hypothetical I'm giving you. What's easier? Doing just what you need to do to make enough so everyone gets by, no problems, or to work extra to produce surpluses, surpluses. That you know what surpluses are, right? The extra, it's stuff nobody needs. That's why it's extra. That's why there's surplus, because that stuff's not needed. So working full-time overtime. So which is easier? Well, of course. The easy one is easier, right? I mean, it's not a trick question. So the Na'vi, we're still doom scrolling. This article about popular movie. So the Na'vi, they're hunter-gatherers. That means they do just enough. They do only what they need to do to have enough. And that's it. So their life was easy compared to the sky people. You saw that movie. You don't even need to see the movie. Just imagine any of the shit that's going on, that's going down around Earth right now amongst people of your culture. All the military operations, all the industrial operations, all the work, all the mining, all the harvesting, everything. The planting, the harvesting, the deforestation, the fishing, the overfishing, the rape of a planet. And a better translation of ancient Hebrew in Genesis isn't subdue. A better translation really is it's rape. That ancient Hebrew word that's translated into subdue the earth and have dominion over it. That subdue, rape is probably more accurate, closer. So we know who had the easier lifestyle, the better lifestyle. What did they not have? Well, what the Na'vi didn't have, they didn't have schools, they didn't have prisons, they didn't have, and Na'vi. We don't really know this because they didn't show. Because it's like they didn't care, or they don't really know. They just think that it's almost a species thing, right? Like humans are broken. We're broken monkeys somehow. We're some twisted, genetically engineered experiment done by some inept gods unleashed just on the galaxy, right? Told us to conquer. Right, well, sky people, Na'vi. So they didn't really know, but and they didn't show. There would have been some slow points. Show that lifestyle. It's better. It's easy. But we never really got to look. But you can imagine. And you can imagine because the Na'vi, hunter-gatherers, and just very recently, in North America, very recently, that continent was filled with hunter-gatherers, not filled with 500 million people like it is now. 500 million, that's more than filled. That's overfilled. It's like, especially what your culture is doing to the water. Your culture's just made half, most, of lakes and rivers. Are toxic. So we don't really need to go have an extra hour of the Avatar movie. We don't need that extra hour there. We already know from anthropologists on Earth, with records on Earth, lifestyles of hunter-gatherers. And though they have diverse traditions and rituals and fashion and customs, and there's things they had in common. And one of the similarities was leisure. They didn't have to maintain prisons. They didn't have to maintain schools. They didn't have those things. You know what else they didn't have? And I'm talking about the Cherokee, the Cheyenne, or the Na'vi on Pandora. You know what else they don't have? Kings. No kings, no royalty. No millionaire or billionaire CEOs. No pharaohs. No imams or popes. No prophets, for that matter. No prophets or saviors. And y'all just leave the movie theater like, oh, what great special effects. Wait a minute. Look at this headline. Weekend box office, Avatar sequel, now 7th highest grossing film ever. And it's about the rape of an alien planet done by people of civilized culture, blamed on Homo sapiens. Okay, and then here, we'll write about what you know, I guess, right? And we're going to write a movie, write a screenplay. How fictional is it? How fictional could it be? Here it is. Here's another headline from BBC.com. Dugong, animal that inspired mermaid tales, extinct in China. This marine mammal could not survive anymore because of what you are doing. And by you, I'm not saying you're Chinese and you're directly responsible for this creature going extinct in China. I'm saying you're all in it together. East and West. 8 billion of you. It's all one stampede. It's all the same stampede. So you watch this movie about yourselves, and it's really about civilized people, but y'all, including the creators of the movies, y'all think it's about Homo sapiens and how they're, but now they've moved on. They made Earth such a cesspool that they're moving on to the raping of other planets. And you just walk out of there. So the movie's incredibly racist, for one, because it paints civilized people as humans. It couldn't be further from the truth. I take offense. And no one sees that movie out here. No one gives a rat's ass. Avatar. Nobody cares. But if they were to watch it, you know how embarrassed I'd be? And not just I'd be embarrassed, but I'd also be shunned. I'd be ostracized. Who would want to interact with me? The way that movie paints our species. Because it's made by people who think that civilization is humanity. It's not. People who made that movie think it is. The people who went that movie, most of y'all, you think it is. That's why you're not upset when you see all the rape and the death, destruction, all the killing. Maybe, you're upset. Yeah, anybody with, let's hope you are. Anybody with some compassion, empathy. You got to feel bad for the Na'vi and their neighbors. What happened to them? Yeah, they won the battle, but all those machines destroyed, people killed, all that coastline is bad. I mean, that's not a spoiler. You know it's going to happen. You know what the movie's about. It's about war. It's about farmers going somewhere. It's about farmers going somewhere. Pyramid builders. They get to Pandora. This kind of looks like where I am right now. And if you aren't getting the video feed, I'll explain to you the view. A big blue planet in front of a ringed planet. So Doomsy's flying there. So yeah, incredibly racist movie. Really does not make it easy for me. Although I'm just kidding now because I'm in this somewhere in the multiverse. No one is gonna think twice about some biped with digital watch. But if they were to see that movie, they'd just go, oh man. They would think that, I don't know, they couldn't think that our species was natural, like some failed biological experiment. And that's the culture, right? Made by inept gods. Really, that's one thing you won't admit. Most of you, billions of you that really subscribe to your mythology, the religions of civilized culture, you won't admit to the idolatry, because you idolize not a statue of a humanoid or an earthly creature. You idolize pages of literature. You idolize a Bible or a Quran or something. So you won't admit to the idolatry. And you won't admit to, well, look, the racism, there is no such thing as race. There's only the human race. And I'm telling you, the movie paints humans in a bad light. And it worries me that y'all can walk out of the theater just going, oh, okay, well, yeah, sky people are people. Sky people are humans. That's what the dominant species on Earth does. That's what we should do. We should expect that. All right, let's go out for ice cream now. And so, whatever your take on it, and if you realize, if you can see through the mythology, that false equivalency between civilized culture and humanity, if you can see beyond that, still, what are you doing? You're walking out of the theater. Oh no, okay, I'm part of a culture. I'm part of a culture that is doing this same thing on Earth. What we saw in the movie on the planet Pandora, I am of the culture doing it on Earth. Waging war versus all the other animals. This is war. Okay, back to this headline. Here we go. Dugong, animal that inspired mermaid tales, extinct in China. 24th of August, 2022. BBC.com. That's the headline. So it's happening. So it's still happening. It's going on. You sky people are effing, raping Pandora. But Pandora's Earth. It's paradise. Way more beautiful than Pandora. I don't care what any of y'all say. They can't come close. So, yeah, that's Doomsy's opinion on Avatar. It's a racist movie, I mean, we can look at, look, here's what I'm talking about. Look, I mean, listen, it's a podcast, right? Look at this headline here from USA Today. What are the causes of climate change? Okay, why scientists say humans are to blame. That's the headline. What are the causes of climate change? Why scientists say humans are to blame. Now that is grossly inaccurate. Grossly inaccurate. Now, I'm not saying that. Well, look, here's what I am saying. This headline should read, why scientists say civilized humans are to blame. Civilized humans are the ones to blame. What, this is mythology right here. And scientists are susceptible to it. Science isn't, but scientists are. As they grow up in a society and culture just like everybody else. And so they absorb that mythology. And they think what civilized culture is, they think that's equal to the Homo sapiens. They think that civilized culture, this one culture of which you now number 8 billion of you, scientists think this one culture represents the whole species. So basically, if you're Homo sapien, if you're born, if a scientist from Earth is anywhere in the universe and sees another human, well, of course, that person is a farmer pyramid builder. Person is of civilized culture, because that's what it means to be human. And we know it's not necessarily so. There were humans on the side of the Na'vi in the Avatar movie. But that wasn't explored. Lifestyle of the Na'vi was not explored. This is wrong. This headline here from Yahoo News. Oh my goodness. Taking some fire, I think. What are the causes of climate change? Why scientists say humans are to blame? Oh, it's definitely, people are doing this, but not humans. We're talking, if you talk people, you talk culture. This article, they have to explain weather is what you see outside the window. Climate is what occurs in an area over years or decades. So what is the most important cause of climate change? That's a sub-headline, I guess. Headline in this article. What is the most important cause of climate change? Okay, I'll tell you. Your culture. Civilized culture is the cause of climate change. But no, because you think it's humanity is the cause of climate change, the cause, because humans just wage war. That's just what you do. The cause, you drill down to the molecular level, to the chemical reactions of climate change. Let's make it simple. What are the other causes of climate change? Farming and pyramid building. That's the cause of climate change. Farming and pyramid building. And it sucks. Farming and building pyramids, it sucks. Sky people, Navi, right? What, European farmers, Native Americans, in the 1600s, the 1400s. How to stop climate change. It's in this article. How to stop climate change. Abandon your culture of war. Abandon pyramid building. Abandon farming. You don't have to wage holy war doing agriculture. Agriculture is possible without waging war at the same time. There's no way it's going to end well. It's just not. Okay, enough with that article. Let's continue with the scrolling. Oh, this is great. Let's include this because well, we're talking about racism. Avatar. Sky people. Trying to paint the entire human race as one culture. Look at this headline right here. This is from a few weeks ago. A couple weeks ago. December 30th, 2022. Okay, here's the headline. Why I teach a course called White Racism. Ted Thornhill, Director, Center for Critical Race and Ethnic Studies, Associate Professor of Sociology, Florida Gulf Coast University. Okay, now, can you guess what Doomsy thinks about this article or how I read this? Can you guess? I mean, it has to do with what I said at the beginning of this show. There's no such thing as race. Science went looking for race, couldn't find it. It's a social construct. Humans are humans. And that's it. There's like genetic differences, but not racial. There's no such thing as a biracial baby. Doesn't exist. Because that would mean that there were races, that there were different races. And they were able to get pregnant. Two members of each race were able to reproduce. And that product, of course, is biracial. No, that never happens. Okay, that never happens. And this guy, Ted Thornhill, why I teach a course called White Racism, he writes this article. Because this article was published on February 1st, 2018. Okay, I'm not going to read what he says, not all of it, not even a big portion of it. I'll just tell you this, look. Well, look, listen, I'll scroll this whole article, all these lines, all these words. You can read it, but look, nowhere in here, nowhere in this article does this guy state the fact, the truth. Nowhere does he state that race doesn't exist. There's nowhere in here. Nowhere. And then he mixes up racism with oppression. Oppression is just one way people I guess exert or express their racism is oppression. So, but to get to even racism, before you get to the oppression, you have to have the racism. To get to the racism, you have to believe that there's different races. You have to. And then you think one race is superior to the other race. That's the only way there can be racism. You have to first think that there's different races. And this guy, he's just talking about race all the time. Race, race, race. This race, black race, white race, Asian race, whatever, all these races. I'm about racism and racism exists. For sure it does. Unfortunately. Yeah, it's all over the place. Talk about racism, but you aren't really helping the situation of racism if you aren't always including the fact that there's no such thing as race. And in this big article here, this guy never talks about that. So look at that. Let's look at the headline of this article again. Why I teach a course called White Racism. Okay. Let's take out the words in the middle of this headline. Let's leave the one last word on the end and use the first three words. And what do you get? You get Ted Thornhill saying, why I teach racism. I mean, he kind of is. He's perpetuating, promoting the idea that there's different races. We know there's not. So, dude's not helping. And he's got a nice job, I guess. Okay. All right. Oh my gosh. Listen to this headline. Are you ready for it? I wasn't. I wasn't when I first saw this article. Here's the headline. Kim Jong-un's midlife crisis. Quote. He's crying after drinking a lot. You know how pathetic. You know how pathetic this makes humans look, if especially for me here in this other galaxy on the other side of the universe, or maybe in another universe. Maybe it's the multiverse. I mean, that you have to have a headline like this. That there's actual, you can argue for a reason. That it can be argued that this article needs to be written. That people should know that this piece of is feeling sad. He's a huge, or maybe he's kind of small piece of shit. He's garbage. He's like among the most wicked products that civilized culture can produce. There you go, right there, that guy. North Korean. Not leader. There's a leader of North Korea, North Korean leader. No, what's he leading? He doesn't lead anything. None of these people are leaders. That's what you got to realize, okay? Let Doomsy tell it to you straight. Okay? They are not leading. Putin's not a leader. Biden's not a leader. Trump was never a leader. Kim Jong-un's not a leader. Whoever they got in what's 10 Downing Street? Is it 10 Downing Street? Not leaders. Whoever's in the White House, Biden, they're not leaders. What are they leading? They're not leading anything. They're sitting on tops of pyramids. It's not a leadership kind of deal. It's just not. There's about 8 billion of you are stampeding towards a cliff of ecological extinction. And these people, these leaders, they aren't out in front of this stampede. They aren't. They're not the ones looking at the cliff. They're not running in the stampede. They are not leaders. They're like riding on top. And there's different layers, right? The nobles and the royals. The royals are on top of the nobles. Nobles are on top of all the peasants who are stampeding. So everyone's in the stampede. It's not a comfortable ride. It's worse to run, but the nobles, they're worried about their spot. They don't want to fall down into the stampede. The royals, they got the furniture on the shoulders of the nobles, the noble class. They got the most comfy, but that's not leadership. So he's not the North Korean leader. Kim Jong-un, a tyrant, tyrannical king. So he's a tyrannical king. So let's put this in perspective. Let's give it the proper scope. Okay, this article is by Nicola Smith, Sunday, January 8th, 2023. What's this? This is just Yahoo News. Yahoo News. Kim Jong-un's midlife crisis. He's crying after drinking a lot. Let me scroll. He probably feels more mortal now than he did 3 years ago. All right, that's a big part of your culture, right? Being immortal like gods. Dying is because of sin. It's wrong to die, or it's a shameful thing. To die. I don't know how you figure that. Everything does. So this tyrannical king. You know how you get a tyrannical king? You know the only way to get a tyrannical king, you got to first have kings. And let's go back to classified documents, at these people's, and the classified documents, the top secret. Let's get to the super big. Let's go back to the super big secret agreement from Beijing and Pyongyang now. Yeah, Pyongyang. Let's bring North Korea into this. Kremlin, every capital, Washington, D.C. This is the super big secret agreement amongst all of them is they're different. There's significant difference between them. They believe they are significantly different from each other. And they aren't. If you think there's some magical economy that'll create a utopia that everyone will just be happy, you're out of your mind. It doesn't matter what you call it. No matter what your ism. Socialism, communism, capitalism. Doesn't matter. You're going to get the social hierarchy. You get all the commoners at the bottom. Dragging stones, building the pyramids. You get the nobles, have a little more altitude. Social class, right? They got a little bit easier. But the only people that really got it easier are the royals at the top. Communism, capitalism, socialism, doesn't matter. You get that. You get that stratification. You get that hierarchy. You get the pyramid. Yeah, that's the super big secret agreement among all the governments, is they're different. They are significantly different from each other. They all agree on that. They expect you to agree. Automatically, they expect you to agree to that too. There's not that much difference. Most of the rivers and the lakes in the USA are poison. They're toxic. They're impaired. Most of them. You think it's any better in China? You think they don't got pollution, S-hole problems in North Korea? Or it's all over. So this article that you have to, how is Generation Alpha? You really want to sell this to Generation Alpha? Let's go back to this headline again. He's crying after drinking a lot. This waste of this bag of proteins. Kim Jong-un, he's crying out. There's got to be that. There's a legit reason for this article, for people to care that this lowlife, this just wicked we got to care that he's sad because he has all this power. He's got weapons and power. So yeah, if he's getting depressed, yeah, maybe you should pay attention to that. But that's on you. This guy is your royalty, even if you don't live in North Korea. Kings everywhere are supported by a king anywhere, all over, because you're all supporting these kings. The only way to have a tyrannical king, and you people have got to start realizing that you don't need to have kings. You lived without them. Humans lived without them, and still live without them. In some places, less than 1% of you now. Okay, let's move it on. Wow. Okay, I'm going to skip over that one because that's just almost funny. Here we go. Listen to this headline. This was in a number of news sources, I recall. This is ChristianityToday.com. Maria Bayer. I don't know if I'm pronouncing these names right. I'm trying to. This was March 11th, 2022. I think I came to this article from people complaining about it on Reddit, this ad campaign. They couldn't report these ads. They didn't like seeing them. So this headline here is $100 million ad campaign aims to make Jesus the biggest brand in your city. He gets us. That's like the slogan for the ad campaign. He gets us. An effort to attract skeptics and cultural Christians launches nationally this month. But Christians still have questions about how the church markets faith. Market faith. Hey, you got to market faith. Hey, here's how you market it. Here's the only way that it's been marketed. Okay, and this is all headline stuff. $100 million ad campaign. $100 million spent on ads for Jesus. They want it to be the biggest brand in your city. That's how they're going to spend $100 million. He gets us. So they still have questions about how the church markets faith. Here's how you market faith. With a threat and a bribe. You market faith with a threat of eternal torture, forever and ever, pain and suffering, maximum pain and suffering, torture, forever and ever. That threat, and then a bribe. A bribe. Do this, say this, profess this, and you'll get heaven, paradise, pleasure, right? I don't know how. It's pretty explicit, some of these mythologies, what the eternal non-torture life is. Still sounds like torture to me, worshiping somebody with a penis, right? For worshiping that forever and ever. I don't know how that's heaven, but a bribe of heaven, and a threat of hell. That's how the church markets faith. It's the only way. It's the only way they ever. There's subtle differences, I guess. They could do, more stick, less carrot, more carrot, less stick. He gets us. And so we're going to do a little review here. The next article. And, let me flip back. Okay, $100 million ad campaign. Okay, he gets us. That's the slogan. To make Jesus the biggest brand in your city. He gets us. Well, okay. And the guy was tortured to death. Somewhere in his early 30s. He was poor, he was homeless, and then tortured to death. He gets us. So, I'm telling you, this is not a good thing. That they, look, in the article, blah, 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 exhaustively researched and market-tested message about Jesus Christ. He gets us. Okay, market-tested. So they figure this is working. That's kind of pathetic that this would work. Don't you think that's horrible? In your culture, most of y'all, I don't know about most, but many, enough for a $100 million ad campaign to get the green light. Most of you, or enough of you, will respond, will jive with this, this dude who was tortured to death. Oh, but he didn't really die. But you're to blame for his death, but he didn't really die. He was tortured. He was poor. He gets you. That's pathetic that is a thing. Don't you realize that's an indictment of civilized culture? Your culture sucks. The most popular, most famous religious icon in the civilized culture is a device used to torture people to death. The crucifix, the cross. An instrument of incredible suffering. That's what you're going with. He gets us. Are they gonna? Is any of that 100 million being spent in North Korea? Are they gonna get Kim Jong-un? I think he's crying. He's feeling down. He's feeling sad, right? There were times when Jesus felt sad. And then the very next headline here. This isn't a sequence. I scrolled through these in some haphazard order. Okay, this is on Yahoo News, the AP, Associated Press, a couple weeks ago. Here's the headline: Pope on Christmas. Jesus was poor, so don't be power hungry. Yeah, really. Really, I'm not kidding. That's the headline. Pope on Christmas. Jesus was poor, so don't be power hungry. Don't be power hungry? Says the guy atop a huge socioeconomic hierarchy. Don't be power hungry, says the guy holding a bunch of gold. Jesus was poor, so don't be power hungry. Oh, be like him, right? Let's be like a guy who was tortured to death. Don't be power hungry. And basically admitting that Yeshu, that was his actual name, not Jesus. Nobody was named Jesus back then. Approximately 20% of baby boys were named Joshua or Yeshua in Jerusalem at the time. Jesus was poor, so don't be power hungry. Come on. You're telling us all the time what happened to Jesus, right? Dude got tortured to death. So let's be like that? Really? That message, how is that going to work? So don't be power hungry. That is what civilized culture does. Civilized culture cultivates the power hungry people. Every society in civilized culture systematically filters through the population to find the most greedy, the most power hungry, the most ruthless people, the most ruthless people anywhere, and elevate them. Elevate them to the top of your hierarchy. Put them at the tops of the pyramids. Give them a system You have these next two articles here. U.S. moves to bar non-compete agreements in labor contracts. What's going on in the USA? Non-compete agreements. So everyone has to work, but they don't want to let you work for somebody else. You start building our pyramid, we're not going to let you work on somebody else's pyramid. We're going to F you up if you do. You know what? U.S. moves to bar non-compete. So you got these and then look at this guy right here. Listen to this headline. Home Depot's 93-year-old co-founder who said, "Nobody works anymore because of socialism," has donated $64 million to elect Trump and the Republican Party over the years. Nobody works anymore. Oh, this guy, he's working real hard, isn't he? Yeah, he's just slaving away. Look at this guy. Billionaire. How is he a billionaire if nobody works? How does he get to the top of that pyramid if it's not built by people working to build his pyramid? Nobody works anymore. So nobody works anymore, but then here, you have to make laws that say, oh, you can't build that pyramid once you've started building our pyramid. You can't go build another pyramid. A sweeping proposal by the Federal Trade Commission would block companies from limiting their employees' ability to work for a rival. I mean, I would say that's unfair. These non-compete agreements, what these companies do to not, you can't work for a rival. Now, I would say that that's unfair, but why? You know what's unfair? Locking up all the food so that you can force people to build pyramids. That's unfair. Something like this. Oh, whoop-de-doo. You already got the oppression thing going. Locking up the food, forcing people to build pyramids. That isn't that most of it? Isn't that the hard part? And what's really going on if now you're your culture, okay, forces all of you to build pyramids, and then the unfair thing is that once you're building this pyramid, we aren't going to let you build those similar kinds of pyramids. You got to build pyramids that don't compete so much with our pyramid. It's insane. It's insane. Your culture is insane. I'm glad to be away from it. I sure would like to breathe Earth atmosphere. Actual air, kind of evolution has accustomed my lungs to, instead of these alien atmospheres. I was just, if you're not getting the video feed, then you don't know that I was on just a horrific planet, horrific to humans anyways. I'd like to be on Earth, but I'm glad I'm out of that. I'm glad I'm not building pyramids. Glad I'm done with civilized culture. I'm glad that I don't have the guilt of dumping plastic into the ocean, because I know that no matter what I was doing, no matter how much I tried recycling, that some of that was getting in the ocean. Just statistically, that's what's going on. I didn't like that. I'm glad to be out of it. So this guy, whom nobody works. Okay, let's. Okay, I'm gonna find it right here. I'm gonna Google "nobody works" meme. Okay, watch this pop up, and there's this history. Right, nobody wants to work anymore. Here we go. I will read this headline for those with the video feed. There it is. A brief history of capitalists complaining that nobody wants to work for starvation wages. Or take the starvation wages out of it. Whatever the wages. History of capitalists complaining that nobody wants to work. Okay, so it starts at 2022. According to a new survey released by Tiny Pulse, by Tiny Pulse, 1 in 5 executive leaders agree with this statement. No one wants to work. 1 in 5 executive leaders agree with this statement. No one wants to work. These same leaders cite a, quote, lack of response to job, blah, blah, blah. Okay, article from 2014. What has happened to the work ethic in America? Nobody wants to work anymore. It has not always been that way. When I first started work as a teenager, I saw people work hard. 2006. Like nobody wants to work anymore when they do. 1999. Nobody wants to work anymore, Cecil said. They all want to work in 1981. Off this land last week, but they just fooled around. They didn't want to work. Nobody wants to work anymore. 1979, 1969, 1952, 1940, 1937. Nobody wants to work anymore. 1922, nobody wants to work. All these articles, all these newspapers. 1916, 1905, unreliable. None want to work for wages. Then the last in this thing, 1894. It is becoming apparent that nobody wants to work these hard times. 1894. Okay, Mr. like Home Depot billionaire guy. Let's go 1894. Nobody wants to work. Yeah, no, nobody does. Who wants to work? I mean, you want to be a pharaoh, right? You want to be a king. People dream about being kings. Some people, that our civilized culture cultivates greed in people. Nothing wrong with greed. That's just a human emotion, a human character trait. I mean, it's just part of being human. Bit of greed here and there. But your culture systematically maximizes greed. You find the greediest people among you and elevate them. So 1894, they go from 2022 to 1894 with nobody wants to work anymore. Let's go back, 7,000 years? How many? Go back 5,000 years? I think 5,000 years. Building those great pyramids in Egypt. Go back to then. You think they wanted to work? Who was happy building those pyramids? Pyramids are still getting built. I'm telling you, they just change shape. They look different. More tech in them. More engineering. Well, I don't know if there's more engineering. But, yeah, nobody wants to work. Yeah, why should... Nobody wants to work for you, pal. Nobody needs these kings. All right. Actually, I had a lot more to get to. Let me see. We'll get to the other stuff. We'll get to the other stuff tomorrow. There'll be another Doomsy McDoomscroller Show tomorrow. Today's show on racism. Movies. Nobody wants to work. And the common theme, or what you'll hear again and again. I don't think there's any way around it. If I'm reading news from your culture, I get smacked with it again and again. Look, you have these tyrannical kings. Why have kings? You think you have to. You think having kings, and therefore some tyrannical kings, you think that's just part of being Homo sapiens. The sky people. That's what Homo sapiens... Sky people equal Homo sapiens. No. Sky people, that equals civilized people. You people. Not humans. For most of human existence, actually, for the vast majority of human history, no sky people, no civilized culture, no raping of a planet, no genocide, no slavery, no pyramid building. Culture is not what people have. Culture is what people do. Doomsy is not a soothsayer. I'm just saying what a million people, at least a million before me, before I ever got lost out here in the multiverse, before I ever left Earth, there were a million people before me, at least a million, who could see all this stuff, who could see the elephant in the room. That's not a prediction of the future. If you talk about the elephant in the room, you're not saying, you're not talking about an empty room and saying, elephants are going to be entering this space soon. You're talking about what's actually happening right now. It's happening right now. Your culture is collapsing. It's collapsing. It was canceled. Okay? Your civilized culture was canceled. At the very beginning, as soon as it started, it's been canceled. And you keep getting cancellation notices again and again and again. Earth is giving you these cancellation notices. And you just keep ignoring them because you think you're made in the image of gods, in that some of you should be really powerful like gods and be at the tops of pyramids. And you know why the Pharaoh in ancient Egypt, you know why the Pharaoh was the only one allowed to hunt, don't you? Did you know that? Yeah, that was kind of a thing. Only the Pharaoh. And of course, Pharaoh's friends that would go out with him or her. Only Pharaoh was allowed to hunt. Why? Why was that? Because if anybody could hunt, anybody could just go get the food. You could just look at the neighbor creatures, neighbor earthlings walking around, swimming around, flying around, crawling around. If you could just eat the food that's walking around, who would work? Who would build pyramids? Why? Why would you do that? If the food was available everywhere, like it was in Africa, in Egypt, back in the day, wildlife all over. You know, whenever you're hungry, just hunt some of it down, catch some of it, gather some of it. You know, why build a pyramid? You know, so nobody wants to work. Yeah, nobody wants to work. Not just for you, not just for your low-life wages. Not just for that. Nobody wants to work. Pyramid. Period. Pyramid. Period. Pyramid. No one wants to build pyramids. You don't need to have kings. So, you know, Avatar, extremely racist movie. Yeah, it was very long and there were no slow points. I think there should have been some slow points. At the risk of being slow, they should have really showed the lifestyle of the Na'vi, because being hunter-gatherers, if they had some anthropologists consulting on that movie, on that screenplay, the writing of the screenplay, should have showed a lot of kicking back, a lot of leisure time. You know, that's what was all over Earth before the metaphorical Cain started killing Abel, or emblematic Cain started killing Abel, I should say. Yeah, Pandora. It's Earth. You know, it's still happening. You know, on the show today, extinct in China, marine mammal, extinct in China from August last year. So, you know, it's not something that just happens in the movies. And look, by the way, it's science fiction, but it's not fantasy, so there's some believability to it, right? It's feasible or plausible, or you can imagine this, right? Sci-fi. Why is it believable? Why is it a passable story? Because you know that that's what you do. You know that's your culture. Raping a planet, waging war, not giving a shit about any other species on the planet or on another planet in the case of this sci-fi movie. So Avatar, let's make $1 billion. So the civilized culture starts based on a delusion of grandeur people in the Fertile Crescent have. And they start a conquering and a conquering. Genocide, slavery spreads around the globe. Genocide, slavery, pyramid building. Of course, all of it is fueled by holy war agriculture. And then a few thousand years go by and somebody makes a movie about the rape of the planet, about genocide. And let's make $1 billion. So that guy, he's got a nice pyramid, doesn't he? What's his name? James Cameron? He sure is happy. He's a happy neo-pharaoh, isn't he? He's just such a happy neo-pharaoh. He just gets to go on submarine rides and rocket ship rides and I mean, he's special, right? He's a leader. He's an artist, huh? Ooh, real original plot there, James Cameron. Farmers raping the planet and killing a bunch of hunters. Real original, dude. It's been going on for 12,000 years already. Ain't nothing original about that. And I'm out here in another galaxy, and, you know, if someone, no one's going to watch that, but if someone were, they'd get the impression from your assumption that civilized culture is Homo sapiens, that it is a species. They'd get that impression. And as far as I'm the only human I've seen out here so far. So it doesn't reflect well. You know, I'm just trying to get by, find my way back to Earth. It's not easy. So thanks, James Cameron. Thanks for making it difficult. You know, I hope it goes out. I hope it goes out of popularity. I hope it gets out of the theater. Well, what am I saying? There's no theaters around here. I've yet to find a cinema. So, anyways. If you hear anyone talk about racism or race, you got to remind them there ain't no such thing. Racism probably ain't ever going away. But it sure is going to get stronger as long as people think there's different races. As long as they exist. You got people teaching courses that promote the idea of different races. Jeez Louise. And you expect Gen Alpha to just say, oh, okay. Yeah, hey, thanks. Thanks for the handoff. We'll take it from here. We'll do our best. It's all up to us now, just like you said. Think Gen Alpha's going to want that? All right. That's all Doomsy McDoomscroller has for this episode. I'm going to see, I still have hope. Maybe I can get back to Earth, sooner rather than later. Maybe in a year, maybe in just an hour, I don't know. Maybe I can make the jump. Maybe I can find some trans-universe, multi-spatial wormhole Well, maybe I can find the tech, the phenomenon that got me lost out here. Maybe that same tech, that same thing can get me back to Earth. I don't know, but I'm going to look for it. And if I have time tomorrow, I'll do another show. Oh, by the way, did I say earlier? If you want your voice on the show, go to my website. You can get your voice on the show. Because I know you don't agree with Doomsy. I mean, I don't know if I have any listeners. My friends on Earth tell me just do this broadcast. They'll post it on the channel. So I don't know. I don't know who I got. Listen, but, you know, if you don't like it, that's okay. You can complain. I suggest that you actually make an argument. If you say something interesting, if you contribute to an argument, the show's writers, the producers, will have me put your voice on the show, and I will respond. If you have any questions or suggestions or even accusations, you want to call me a heretic, maybe it'll be interesting if you do it in an interesting way. I'll put it on the show. Just go to my website, www.doomsymcdoomscroller.com, and you'll see a link, and you can click that, and you can record a voice message. Our producers will get it. The writers will put it into the show, and yeah, you'll be part of this futurology discussion. But I have to say, if you're going to just complain about my heretical complaints, I mean, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Really, I mean, you might as well protest a cartoon character on Adult Swim. Right? Because I am out of F's about who I offend. I'm harshly criticizing the culture to which 8 billion people belong. Do you think your opinion of Doomsy is going to make me go, oh, maybe I should change my mind? Maybe the sky people are actually good people. No. But if it's interesting, it'll get on the show. This has been the Doomsy McDoomscroller Show. Thanks for listening.